Are there really 3 levels of Zen? In this video, I'm going to answer a question about this topic, but also talk about how only one of these can truly help your life. Hello everyone, it's Jason, and I'm here answering your questions about Zen, meditation, life, your practice, any kind of question. Today's question is about different levels of Zen. Let me read this question for you. Hey Jason, I recently read a teaching from Zen Master Seung Sahn on the 3 levels of Zen. Could you elaborate on that? How does it relate to everyday life? Okay, so this is an interesting question, and I'm sure I'm going to get into trouble for making this video. But this person's referring to a teaching from Zen Master Seung Sahn from the book Compass of Zen. I'm going to talk about these 3 things from my own experience. When I first read this, 3 levels of Zen, the first thing that came to my mind is like we're building up to something. We're going up the levels, kind of like you would in school. You graduate, you go to the next level, you graduate and continue on. Or perhaps you go up the ladder in your job. So maybe a better way of talking about this is looking at 3 experiences one can have with Zen. And the first experience is theoretical Zen. And what this is just understanding about Zen. Maybe you read a lot about Zen. Professors can fall into this category. And of course, when I meet students who are just starting to practice Zen, they come from a lot of book knowledge. They've read a lot of books about Zen. But what's important here is that understanding alone is not enough. Let me tell you a story about a man who retired from his job. And he was thinking about what he wanted to do, how he wanted to spend his time. So one thing he always wanted to do was to learn how to swim. So he went to the library, got a lot of books about swimming, the different types of swimming techniques and the science of swimming. He went online and looked at many videos about how to swim. And one day, he was walking through a park. And he was reading a book about how to swim. And he was walking across this bridge that had no guardrails. And as he was reading, he fell off the bridge, fell into the water, and drowned. So just understanding is not enough. Understanding is very valuable. It can point us to a direction. In fact, perhaps our understanding and our experience can lead to an awakening. The second experience is becoming one with this moment. It's a direct experience of our original mind. Sometimes you may hear a direct experience of your true self. Insight into our true nature. You may read stories about Zen masters who realized enlightenment. One Zen master heard a rooster crowing. And at that moment, his mind and the sound of the rooster were not separate. Another master was sitting in a temple, and the big temple bell rang. And at that moment, there was no separation between his mind and the sound of the bell. We also have had this experience. I often hear people tell me when they're out in nature, going on a hike, just the green trees or the smell of the pine cones or the wind touching the face. We've all had that experience. It's nothing special. Zen Master Seung Sahn once said that when Zen was flourishing in China, just the experience of this truth or becoming one was enough. Because if you look at that time, it was mostly monastics who were practicing Zen. There were some lay people who were quite famous, actually. But it was mostly a monastic practice. And many monastics had a very simple life situation. Clothes were given to them, food were given to them, a place to practice was available for them. So they didn't have much connection with society. So wisdom and function wasn't emphasized back then. And that perhaps leads me to the third experience, which is action Zen. So what's important here is, how does becoming one or having an enlightenment experience, how does that function in our lives from moment to moment? So before, there were mostly monastics practicing Zen. But if you look around today, I would say it's mostly lay people practicing Zen. And often lay people have very intricate lives, going to work, having families, and going to school, doing many things. So how does our experience help our lives? Even Suzuki Roshi mentioned having some deep feeling or experience in Buddhism is not the point. We should just do what we do, like eating dinner and going to bed. This reminds me of a Zen koan. You might have heard of this koan, and if you haven't, you have to hear me out on this. There was a very large temple where there were 500 monks on the Western Hall, 500 monks on the Eastern Hall. And one day, they were both fighting over a cat. The Western Hall would say, "This is our cat." And the Eastern Hall would say, "No, this is our cat." Zen Master Namchang heard this commotion and went into this very large hall where they were supposed to be practicing meditation. And all he saw was anger and greed, and was very upset. So Zen Master Namchang took the cat and then pulled out his precepts knife. This is the knife they used to shave the monastic's head. Held the knife to the cat and shouted, "You, give me one word and I'll save this cat. If you cannot, I will kill it." And everybody in that hall had so much anger, so much greed, they could not answer. So the story goes, Namchang killed the cat. Now I can probably make a whole video about this, but what's important here, and this is the question that we ask, is if you were there, how could you save this cat? Now, in some traditions, becoming one is the goal. So maybe in this case, you become one with the cat. I think this actually is important in our lives, where sometimes we say, put ourselves into someone else's shoes. So if somebody's sad, feeling that sadness, becoming one is important, because this is where compassion stems from. But in this case, the experience of becoming one with the cat, maybe you become one with the cat's fear. It's not enough. You know, connecting with the friend or family member who's having a very difficult time, the experience that you feel is not enough. So some action is very necessary. So if you were there, how could you save this cat? So talking about these 3 levels, I think it's important that these are just teaching words. If we take away these 3 levels of Zen, then what's left? Sitting here on this meditation cushion, talking into the video camera. I hope this video was helpful. You can let me know by liking this video, share this video with someone, or put a comment down below. Also, I made a video about spiritual bypassing, and I go more into depth about how our experience or even our spiritual ideas is not enough. I think it may be helpful. Also, I'd be interested in hearing from you. 3 levels of Zen. What do you think about this? Let me know in the comments. Okay, everyone, I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you very soon.